mines have come and gone. Whether they caved in, blew up, smoldered out, or just shut down. But no mining disaster stands out more in my mind than the Great Fall of '44. As the sun rose over Carbondale, reflecting off the frost at the mouth of the mine, a man by the name of Kilkelly was hunched hundreds of feet underground. He was working in a remote underground chamber with another miner, O'Shea, whose headlamp kept flickering. Kilkelly's coal picking cast a steady shadow in the flickering light. Up went his pick, down went the axe, up and down, up and down. After a while, it's hard to say how long, since time is immeasurable in the midnight silence of the mines, but after some time, Kilkelly noticed another shadow. A small fluttering interrupted his steady arm going up and down and up and down. Kilkelly thought, it's nothing more but the flickering lamp. There's nobody here but us two. But it happened that someone else was down there. A canary had somehow escaped its cage and was fluttering about the room. Kilkelly wasn't bothered by the bird at all. He was actually comforted by its presence because a flapping canary is a healthy canary. But he didn't have to worry about any deadly gases harming him and O'Shea. But O'Shea, on the other hand, he dropped his pick, stopped his work, and tried to shoo the bird away. When Kilkelly asked why, O'Shea replied, my ma always said that a bird indoors is bad luck. One night when I was a wee boy, my ma heard a tapping at the windowsill. She went over and took a look, and sure enough, a white bird was tapping on the windowsill. Her and my dad lay sleeping. Sure enough, that night, my dad passed away in his sleep, God rest his soul. Well, Kilkelly, on the other hand, was not superstitious at all, but he stopped his work to chase away the bird, because he liked O'Shea, and more than that, he liked it when O'Shea was working. He had to go pretty far down into the chamber so he and O'Shea could continue working in peace. As he trudged along the musty passageway, he watched as the fluttering of wings faded in the dim light. Go on, he said. Go on and spook someone else, little fella. Kilkelly continued into the chamber when all of a sudden he heard it. It sounded as if a coyote had wandered into the mine, but that couldn't be right. Either way, he heard that sound and he knew that he had to get out of there, but then he thought, oh, well, what if it isn't a coyote? What if it's a lost or hurt breaker bird? Kilkelly knew that the sound was not of a grown man, so it must have been a hurt boy. Hello? He shouted. Hello, is anyone in there? Kilkelly knew that he had to head back somewhere, and all of a sudden he saw a shadow appear along the coal seam. Was it the breaker boy? The shadow continued, hello, are you hurt? The flickering light was silent in the shadow of mine. But then the wail came upon him again, and it reached a shattering pitch, much like the kettle Kilkelly's wife used to heat their breakfast tea. But then all of a sudden, to his right, he heard a thundering roar. The roof was robbed, the mine was caving in, coal and shale pelted around Kilkelly. O'Shea. He headed back towards the chamber, and he hollered towards his friend, O'Shea! O'Shea, can you hear me? Silence. Kilkelly took his two hands and tried to reach away and reach at the rock, but it was no use. His pick was trapped inside the chamber with O'Shea. All he had was his bare hands and his headlamp that kept flickering. So he turned around and decided to look for that wailing figure. He thought, well, if he can't help his friend, then perhaps he can help the lost breaker boy or whoever it was that he heard. But there was no one to be found. Not even a lost mule, or certainly not a lost coyote. Kilkelly headed up towards the wall, towards the mouth of the mine. There were parts of the mine that were collapsed so much that he had to crouch down on his knees and then slither along on his belly. But soon enough, he came upon a few miners who were tending to some of the wounded. The group made their way towards the mouth of the mine. Their faces black with coal dust. Wiping the soot from their eyes, miners gathered around and they assessed the damage. By that time, the superintendent had come and everyone was busy, either tending to the wounded or arranging a rescue for the trap. So Kilkelly grabbed a couple of supplies, he grabbed an extra pick, and took a group down to the chamber where O'Shea was still trapped. He told them about the wailing shadow that he had heard. He said, I think there might still be a breaker boy lost down there, so keep your eyes peeled. But the miners didn't find any breaker boy. What they did find was that canary lying against the shattered wall. The bird was motionless. The miners began to dig. O'Shea was trapped in the chamber, but he didn't survive the cave-in. They retrieved his body and gave him a proper Catholic burial. O'Shea's widow wailed at the funeral. She approached Kilkelly to thank him for retrieving her husband's body. You know, that day, she said, that day when the roof was robbed, I knew that something wasn't right. I was preparing a lamb stew for supper, when all of a sudden I heard a cat yowling at the window. I turned and I shuffled over to the window to shoo it away, when all of a sudden I saw a figure with stark white skin and flaming red hair. I didn't recognize her. I knew that she didn't belong to this congregation, and I knew she wasn't anyone's wife or daughter, not herself. I knew then to say a prayer for my husband's soul, because I knew that I had a visit from the Banshee. My husband never got to enjoy his lamb stew, his favorite. Now I'll never make another lamb stew unless it's on All Souls Day, when his good spirit comes to enter our home. Kilkelly had chills. He offered his condolences to the widow O'Shea and decided right then and there that he was going to light a candle at Mass on All Souls Day. Thank you.